This is Barbara Gahn-Mueller. I am so honored that you are here today. I'm president of the United Nations Association, Southern California Division. The United Nations Association is here because we believe that the United Nations has to have a local presence. We have over 200 United Nations associations. Each association takes care of things in their local area. In Santa Barbara, Sharon Byrne will be giving us a report. We have the opportunity to we worked on sex trafficking, we've worked on ending war, and now we're working on justice, because that's where we really have to begin bring the justice into our communities. And Nancy has been working fearlessly for the human rights and allowing they now have a new human rights for youth. And I think that's pretty impressive. I thought the human rights for youth, it's amazing. If you were to realize how many people don't have a clue about the human rights that we are celebrating its 75th anniversary. And the reason I say that is because we take these booklets, we have these little booklets which eliminate the need to remember all of the human rights. So we give them these little booklets and we take them into places like juvenile hall or to places where people are incarcerated. And they say, I have a human right to freedom, to peace, to live in peace. And when I take them into the juvenile hall and I sit with these beautiful young children, who I call them young children blooming into adulthood, you see the tears. They didn't realize that they were important. They didn't realize that what we do in the world affects them. They didn't realize, they thought they were a victim instead of being a contributor to the planet. And that's my goal, to make us all feel the power that we need to do the work that we need to do. And so with that, I welcome you. And I'm really glad you're here, Marcia, and all the others of you who are here. Please thank yourself for being who you are and for working tirelessly for a world that works for all. And with that, I'm going to start the program. I'd like you each just to say your name real quick and what you do on the planet, because we are recording this and my secretary could not be here today, but she will be putting your name in. So Andrew, would you start today? Just tell us who you are and what you do, please.
Well, thank you. Again, my name is Andrew Williams, Jr. I'm here in Los Angeles, California. I'm wearing the hat as the president of the 5 Points Youth Foundation. My first act was to join the United Nations Global Compact in 2014, so I'll be celebrating my 10th year. I'm also a Facebook ambassador from 2009. I use social media to promote real-world causes, and I leveraged my social capital from that into a Caring for Climate campaign from 2015 to 2020. I was able to recruit 100 Goodwill ambassadors around the world, and we were able to generate over 500,000 hits on our social media output during that time. Now I'm shifted to the remainder of the decade for action on the SDGs, focusing on tourism for SDGs, youth for global goals.org, and the UN Habitat's New Urban Agenda, which has a free online course. So those are the issues that I'll be promoting. As I mentioned earlier, though, I'm a lifetime member of the Black Emergency Managers Association, and we're focusing on making sure that we are prepared at the local level to deal with national and global issues. Thank you.
Wow. Now, everybody, you don't have to tell us everything, but boy, are we glad we heard it from you, Andrew. All right. Ernie, I will introduce you shortly. Let's go over to Quanta. Tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're here.
My name is Quanta Dawnlight, and I was born as Faika Gözcütok, but I changed my name so that this is not the name I was born with. I'm originally from Istanbul, Turkey, and I've been in the United States since 1971 and lived in 7 different countries. And I am a Rotarian for about 7 years, and I've been involved with my dear Barbara Miller in this committee that we're trying to promote Ending War 101. And that's all about me right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Nancy Martin?
The things I'm working on right now, I've been co-chair of the Human Rights Affinity Group, the UNA Human Rights Affinity Group. I think that's ending in March. And I've been working on refugees and environmental action with the Peace Corps groups. And I volunteer in education. That's probably enough.
Beautiful, Nancy. Mike Caruso?
Let's see, I was a Peace Corps volunteer in 1970 to 1973 in Malaysia. I joined Rotary in 2001, sponsored by my daughter, who's a veterinarian, and served as district governor up in the Portland area, Northern Oregon, Southwestern Washington, 2011, 2012. And we started Peace Builder clubs up here in 2011, Rotary Peace Builder clubs, and now there's over 500 worldwide.
And now you're helping us end War 101.
That's right.
One of the founding fathers of ending War 101. David Checkman?
Hi, Barbara. Thank you. Good to be here. So my name is David Tuckman. I am the 2023-24 chapter president for San Fernando Valley chapter of UNA. That's America's first chapter. I started in UNA when I was a sophomore in school with the Mighty United Nations, when Lynn Harris Hicks met me and inspired me in a Mighty UN conference to join the UNA USA and join our chapter. For those who don't know, she was just a little girl at the UN during the first session when her mother was America's first delegate to the UN. And there was Lynn sitting on her lap during that first session in San Francisco. And that was the woman that inspired me to get involved in the UN and UNA. At that time, I advocated for CEDAW, Convention to End All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and the International Declaration for the Right to Trial. Since then, I've been active as a young professional. I served as the division's young professional chair, and then on the National Board of Directors as the UNA USA's first National Young Professional Chair, chair of the Young Professionals Task Force, Young Professionals Working Group. So I've been pretty active as a young professional at the national level. And it's great to take a step back from the national level and division level and now just be a chapter president on the local level. So we all go in circles and try to do as much as we can at various levels in the UNA and UN. So it's great to be part of this amazing organization.
Thank you so much, David. And Danny, would you like to say who you are and where you are?
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Oh, hi. I'm in Davis. I'm working on world peace. I'm hoping we can revise the planet here a little bit. I believe that world peace has to start with the people themselves to formulate the will of the people, so that the people can have control over their governments. Because every government lives in fear, and their go-to solution is to build up the military, which is what we're seeing and going all over the world. But we need to have a way to for the people to talk to each other and have the neighborhood town meeting be the way to formulate the will of the people, and link all the neighborhoods together with a world conferencing system. I figured it would be like a 7-level conferencing system to formulate the will of the people of the planet.
I love you, Danny. I already barely know you, but you definitely have my heart. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to move on to Marcia. Marcia, tell us who you are and where you're from, and get a lovely talk. Marcia, unmute yourself, honey. Let me see if I can help Marcia unmute. Marcia, I'm trying to help you.
Oh, hi. Okay, I did it.
Great.
Hi. I'm from Los Angeles and born and raised in LA. And I've been associated with the UNA since I became the future mother-in-law of David Tuckman and his mother-in-law for 9 years. And I'm a life and health agent in California. I work with Covered California. I'm a help on demand agent, so I enroll people and many immigrants. And even now we've added, I enroll people in Medi-Cal as well as health insurance. And Medi-Cal now is offering health insurance to even immigrants who are here and are not yet lawfully present from age 19 to 49. So I help people stay healthy. That's what I do.
Marcia, it's nice to meet you, and I do know your daughter. And nice to see you. All right.
Thank you.
Sharon Byrne, please.
Well, hey everyone. As Barbara said, I've had a surgery and I look like I've taken up kickboxing as a side gig. So it's not a pretty picture right now. And so I'm going to just hope that my voice can carry where my image will not.
I hear you well.
Okay, good. I'm here in Santa Barbara, and Barbara recruited me some years ago, and it has been just a wonderful, joyful ride, I must say. I feel fresh off a great win in December with a beautiful Human Rights Day event that Nancy really helped put together, where we had just inspirational sound folks that were doing some very cool African sound kind of stuff, and it really was very inspiring. So great Human Rights Day. Have my attention focused now to the UN conference on the status of women coming up in March. I will be giving a presentation there on exploitation of women, and the theme this year is poverty, right, and opportunity. So I think it's a great opportunity to do some work there. So super excited for 2024. Thanks, Barbara.
Hey, thank you, Sharon. Sharon is the president of the Santa Barbara UNA. We are the founders of the Santa Barbara Peace Prize. We are an international city of peace. We work with Fred Arment. If you are not an international city of peace, don't hesitate to go to the website International Cities of Peace. And I know my number, I'm 323. I'm the 323rd International City of Peace. Why did I pick that number? That's my birthday. So now remember, 323, send me a birthday card. Now with that, I'm going to introduce Barry Simon, my pal. Barry, your turn.
There's Barry Simon.
Huh? You're not done yet. We're going to, Barry, unmute yourself. Tell us
Hello, everyone.
Oh, there he is. Look.
Nice to see you all.
Birthday is the day before your father's.
Well, Marcia, shh, we want to hear Barry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Oh, no.
Mute Marcia. I'm going to mute Marcia now. Okay, Marcia, you're muted. Okay, go ahead, Barry.
Hi, thank you. It's nice to see several of you that I've known. Barbara Mueller, of course, Barbara Tibiani, great to see you, and Marcia, and Sharon, and Nancy, and Dave. And I look forward to meeting more of these other people that I'm Quanta. Nice to see you, and I look forward to meeting everybody else. I'm the most recent past president of the Southern California Division. For 15 years, I was the Vice President of Resource Development for the division. My current role is as a lifetime member of UNA, as a regional representative. And I don't know what that means, AI companion. I didn't know that I had an AI companion.
That means he's taking the minutes.
So I'm a regional representative to the National Council. I co-chair the membership committee on the National Council, also on the nominations committee, and I'm a stockbroker by profession, and I'm a poor golf player. As represented by my 102 score yesterday. So anyway, nice to see you all, and I'll have more of a report at the appropriate time. Thanks, Barbara.
He is the former treasurer of our chapters also. So with that, I'm going to go up to, I don't know if Judith Harris wants to say anything, but she is representing Pasadena. She has had some health challenges and she's not on camera right now. Barbara Tabayan, would you like to say something about who you are? Okay, she's not speaking. So I think we have introduced everybody, but if I have not introduced you, shout out now. I'm going to let Ernest, unmute yourself. I don't think they can wait too long to hear from you. So Ernest, tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're here. He's our speaker today.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Barbara. It's my privilege to be here. I'm the president of Smart Settle, and I'm an engineer by profession. Been around the world doing different things in conflict resolution, and I was at Cornell University, got challenged to solve a certain problem, and out of that, now 30 years later, it took a long time to build what we have today is the Smart Settle Infinity collaboration system. I'm going to tell you about that a little bit later on today. I don't know, what else do you want me to say, Barbara, right now?
Perfect, just absolutely perfect. That's all I needed you to do. I wanted everybody to hear your voice because they're not going to leave early. They need to stay and listen to you. And Barbara Tabayan, your turn. Tell us who you are and why you're here today.
Hi, sorry that AI assist kind of messed up my whole screen. So I was trying to unmute myself. Hi, everybody. I'm in West Hills in Los Angeles area, and I'm the past president of the Pacific Los Angeles chapter. So I have been very involved in every special observance that of the UN and the chapter. So very involved for that for like about over 7 years. And I go back to when I was a teenage, well, preteen actually. My mom was a member of the UNA chapter in Florida. So I became involved then. I've also lived in Switzerland and traveled to many different countries. So I know how it is with communicating with people from different countries. You have to know how to assimilate and also show respect, and to be able to get along with the people and also accomplish, the peace and unity together. And I've also have gone to my congressman's office numerous times to advocate for the UN and for human rights. And my congressman is Brad Sherman. So, so I've been communicating with him and involved, with a lot of advocacy over the years too, and still to this day. So basically, that's pretty much in a nutshell what I've been involved with in the UNA.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Barbara. You have been a faithful supporter of the United Nations Association. It sounds like for longer than I even know they were in existence. Thank you so much for Barry, I am now going to go to the program where we have the treasurer's report. Would you mind giving us a treasurer's report today? Sid, who is our new treasurer, is in Spain, and Barry so kindly said he would give the treasurer's report. Thank you, Barry. Barry, you're muted, darling.
Sorry. Okay, so right now we have basically two accounts. Our securities account is a current value of $7,848. Our UN Federal Credit Union account, I invite all of you to consider joining the UN Federal Credit Union. The savings has $90.48. The checking account has $1,139.17. That gives between the two accounts total funds of $9,077.65. To my knowledge, there's been no expenditures since the last meeting, and receivables over the last 90 days was $60. We receive $20 every month for over 2 years from Ali Aksu, one of our youth leaders at the in the LA area, and he continues to give $20 every month. And that's the treasurer's report.
That is so wonderful that we're in we're not in the red, we're in the black, and we have a Webbush account, and we also have a United Nations Federal Credit Union account, which allows us to support the United Nations and to use their banking system. I'm going to move now to representatives, to our regional reps. And the reason I'm doing that is because then I will go into the chapters. But Barry, why don't you give us Barry is a regional rep until June 30th this year. And then he will be, are you going to stay on?
I can be nominated and I can run again or be nominated for another 2-year term.
Okay, that's important. Okay, because right now we also.
In fact, I think in the last election, I was elected for another 2-year term.
I think you were, because David Rice is coming on at 1:15, and he was elected to take Bertel's place in Coachella Valley, and then Sharon Byrne is going to take Bettina's place, and so you probably are our third representative. Good. Why don't you give us a report since you're so experienced now?
In the report that I sent you, Barbara, the first word was March, it should have been February. So the first part of my regional report is that February 16th is the global summit at the UN in New York City. Prior to the pandemic, we would have maybe close to 2,000 people, members and students from campus chapters and community chapters in the General Assembly Hall, which is really an exciting place to be, and sitting in the very desks, the very chairs that global leaders sit in. So the global summit is February 16th at the UN. That's a Friday. This is an extraordinary opportunity to hear from US and UN global leaders about the important work of the UN, the challenges and the efforts to make a better, cleaner, more peaceful world. Well, there may be an opportunity to register and watch via Zoom, and every member has received the information on registering for the event. Every member was sent that information. If you are a member of the UNA and you did not receive that information, maybe your email address is wrong. Let me know about that, and I'll make sure it gets corrected. So while there may be an opportunity to register and watch it on Zoom, that's not the same as being there in person. And especially every chapter division leader, I recommend being there for the difference that being there can make. Many chapters know that it's expensive to go to New York City for a weekend and have one of those days be at the UN. Many chapters do provide a level of financial support based on that chapter's ability to support at least one person from that chapter attending. The division has assisted chapters to the tune of $200 for one young professional to attend. So if a chapter, I think right now there's only maybe 3 or 4 of the 12 chapters in Southern California represented right now on the call. I'm sure there'll be more joining along with Dave Rice. But so you might see if your chapter can provide some assistance to you. And if there's a young person from your chapter, the division would be happy to provide a $200 additional support.
Really helped when we sent our rep. Thank you so much. And
I
then
look forward to seeing you all in New York at the UN in February.
okay.
Additional parts of the regional report, I'll be brief. Elections of regional reps was handled at the Southern California Division meeting in November. Those newly elected officially begin their term in June. So even though we've already had the elections, their term does not officially start until June, the annual meeting of the UN Association in June in Washington, D.C. However, there will be an election conducted by National to officially elect those people on a national level, even though the division has already done it. Regional reps serve on one or more national council committees. I serve as co-chair, as I mentioned, of the membership committee and the nominations committee on the National Council. I invite your questions, comments, successes, etc. in the area of membership. Please call, text, or email me anytime. BarrySimonUNA@gmail.com. Again, BarrySimonUNA@gmail.com, or call me 310-699-2180. And one last thing, make sure your chapter files its federal 990N and the appropriate state tax form. If your tax year ends December 31st, the form is due by May 15th.
Wonderful report, and I thank you so much. This report that you sent to me, I will send to Crystal. It will be official in the minutes. Thank you so much.
I'll just correct that one word from March to
I
February.
can change it right away, February
Yeah.
to 16th, February 16th.
Right. Okay.
Okay,
Thank
now
you.
we are going into our chapter reports. I talked with, get this, Ike Kamasati, who is the Inland chapter in Riverside in that area. He's in Dubai, but we talked this morning and he said his chapter is very busy and he'll give us a report next time when he's back from Dubai. I talked with Princess Karen at the Coachella Valley and she said they are increasing their membership. She wants to make sure she can get the checking account going at the UNFCU, the United Nations Federal Credit Union, and working hard to make sure that her chapter and the members are getting their membership going, because she said her website is amazing. She said, we have been having UNA Coachella Valley, 20 people a day going to our website. So check out UNA Coachella Valley. and she's working hard there. I have not heard from San Diego, and I have only now to report that Santa Barbara has attended. In Santa Barbara, hey, Sharon, would you, our new rep for regional rep, would you give us a Santa Barbara Tri-County report, please?
Yes, not much else to report other than successful. Like I say, happy. We did a great UNA Peace Prize event in September of last year, awarded 2 women who have done amazing things to advance human rights and access to really medical help worldwide. It was just amazing. And then we did a great Human Rights Day event where we celebrated the 75th anniversary of the signing of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and brought Santa Barbans together to celebrate that. So that was really good. And Nancy gave out miniature booklets that have the entire declaration within them. So we passed those out to the community all around WIN. Like I said, we've got some good stuff coming up this year. Our chapter meeting is Tuesday, and I'm excited about that. I'm hoping, I have applied to UNA San Diego to go as a delegate, since they are a registered ESOC org with UN Women. They sent me last year and I super appreciated it. So I'm hoping to get to go again this year, and I've already been accepted to give a presentation at UN Women. So I'm super excited about that. So we've got a lot going on, actually. We need to do our annual calendar. In UNA Santa Barbara, we try to do at least 3 or 4 community events a year, bring everybody together. So love to do one. And I would like to remind everyone, this is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And for the Santa Barbans, there is a vigil coming up. So I will circulate that invitation out around to Central Coast folks. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you. You know, Sharon has been president of the United Nations Association Santa Barbara Tri-Counties, and that's quite a big region. Yet we managed to get quite a few events going. And if you are new to United Nations Association, go to una-socal.org. All of the events that are posted there for each of the different chapters. So like if you're in the Los Angeles area, you may want to take advantage of going into and looking up at the chapters that are representing Los Angeles, Orange County, Pasadena, Pomona, San Fernando Valley. These are the chapters. We have Whittier. So let me just repeat them again. Our chapters include Coachella Valley, Inland Empire, Los Angeles, Orange County, Pasadena, Pomona Valley, San Diego, San Fernando Valley, Santa Barbara, Whittier, and campus chapters. Each community college and each university has a campus chapter of the United Nations Association. Often they are doing model United Nations demonstrations and holding model United Nations forums, where they actually have a United Nations Assistant Secretary General and a Secretary General, and it's quite amazing. Our report from Orange County will be given by David Rice, who is our new chapter rep for meeting in New York or in Washington. And that will be Sharon, and David will be taking on the positions. In the meantime, I would like to see, is there any old business from the United Nations that you think we haven't taken care of? Okay, hearing none, I'm not going to belabor that point. How about new business? Is there anything coming up in the new business? Okay. I'm looking, I don't see any hands, so I'm assuming that we're all taking care of our local materials and local projects and making sure that we allow the people to know. You know, it's really important. Zoom is such an avenue for communicating. I don't know what I do without it, because I can then have, you see behind me, you may want to, I'm going to have a new business. We are having a new course for Ending War 101. The QR code is right behind my left shoulder, and you can see that if you take that on your phone, you can take this 6-hour course, and it doesn't even take that long. Although it took me, I decided to take the course on a Sunday, and I started the course at about 10 in the morning. I got so involved because here was Martin Luther King talking about what it is. He said, we cannot be silent when wars are going on. He said, if you want to commit a sin, don't say anything. Don't let people know that you're against war. And so as I watched these beautiful renditions of people giving us their ideas for peace. Listening to John F. Kennedy's talk, I was lucky enough when I graduated from college to hear John F. Kennedy. He came to my graduation ceremony. Can you imagine? And then the next week he was written up in the Christian Science Monitor. His speech on peace is so powerful, and it's in the course, Ending War 101. We are about 8 people who work tirelessly to end war through communication, through education. Some of the people who got on earlier today are educators. They're educating their people that need to hear that war doesn't work. One of the fellows who got on today is Gary, who is from Ukraine. And he and his wife live in Kyiv. And in Kyiv, they are able to bring the children into the forest areas where the children may be in a war-torn area and there's nothing left in their community. So they invite them to come to his area. And he said he has been working for peace with the World Bank and the United Nations for years. And my late husband, Dr. Robert Mueller, was in the war-torn areas when Alsace-Lorraine and the French were shooting the Germans and the Germans were shooting the French. And he said, I'm going to spend my life working for peace. And so that's because I have found that working for peace gives me so much satisfaction. It doesn't give me results perfect, but never give up. As Winston Churchill said, when somebody said, well, when should I stop working for something? He said, never, never, never give up. And so I ask you to work for peace. And today you're going to find out a way between Ernest Thiessen and some of the people on board that we can learn to end war and begin to have a community approach as well as an individual approach. Some people say to me, Barbara, how can you work for peace? What's wrong? Why is we don't have peace and you keep working for it? And then I said to myself, I wrote an article for my magazine. You know, I do peacepodcast.org. And on my magazine, I had this article called Finding Peace. Do you ever say to yourself, I wish I could find a little peace? And so as I wrote that article, I began to see what I do to bring peace into my life. And so I'm going to give just a couple minutes because I'm waiting for David Rice to join us to give us his report and to talk about some of the things he's doing in Orange County. So with your permission, I'd like to just give you a couple of ideas. And then if David gets here around 1:15, 1:20, then he will give his report from the Orange County chapter. This chapter is powerful. I tell you, he's working hand in glove with the Rotary chapter in Newport Beach. And I think cooperation is a #1 thing that I find works for me. And I say cooperation, but it's really collaboration. To collaborate, United Nations associations, collaborating with Rotary clubs, making yourself known, have a speech, use your United Nations association, create a calling card that says, I'd like to speak to your Rotary club. They're always looking for speakers. In fact, there's a Garvis conference coming up at the end of this month. And Sylvia Whitlock is not on, but Sylvia Whitlock is the founder of the first woman to ever be admitted into Rotary. And she took it to the courts and she is working on the Garvis conference. And so if you're interested in going to the Nixon Library, and that's where they're going to host the Garvis conference, let me know. It's a peace conference. And I'm going to Singapore. Speaking of going places, the Rotary International group of people every year have a peace conference. This year it's going to be in Singapore. I'm not excited about traveling there, but I'm excited about the potential that we can be in there to talk about peace to thousands of Rotarians. So my #1 thing in peace is to take some time for you. Pay attention to how you're feeling. Know that war is with us. As our person this afternoon, Gary said, the climate is boiling right now. We're higher than it's ever been. We're warmer than we've ever been. And so he says, pay attention, meditate a bit, pay attention to how you feel and slow down in the moment. I feel peace is right there and it's available for us when we slow down and ask, how am I doing? And it allows you to Do what my Aunt Mary always said, and I do this often. In fact, I did that before the meeting started. It's called a smile meditation. It's a trick that you use to make your subconscious relax. You just sit for 1 minute and you smile as if there's no tomorrow. And that smile is in your subconscious in a way that allows you to say, I can do this. And so it looks like we have the San Fernando Valley chapter joining us. And so the smile meditation is my Aunt Mary's way of keeping her calm. She died at 88. And she was still smiling, let me tell you. This woman didn't want to leave our planet like my late husband, Robert Mueller, who passed in 2010. He didn't want to leave either. He didn't think the world could get along without him. But when you smile, what happens is your subconscious thinks everything's okay. And then your body goes into that mode of peace. So try that. And then last but not least, I always say peace is a journey, not a destination. And as I walk around in the grocery stores, and as I work for peace, I wear this badge, this little badge that says peace with the peace dove. And people say, oh, you're working for peace. And I say, yes, I am, because I believe that peace is possible. He said, I don't know how you can believe that when I see so many wars. And I say, well, I'm not going to give up on that idea. I remember when World War II was over and I was a little girl. How old was I? 2 or 3? I don't remember. And we were in my dad's 41 Ford. And the next thing, everybody started honking their horns. And me being a tiny little thing, I started to cry. And my dad said, Barbara, this is a celebration honk. We're celebrating the end of World War II. And I thought, a celebration honking of the horn. I want us to have peace, period. And I want us to have peace as a way of life. So that's my dream. And you have to help me on that, y'all, because we need peace. And with that, I just gave you a moment of what I do for peace. And Mary, you're new to us, and I see you're connecting, and thank you for joining us. You're probably here to hear Ernie. And in the meantime, I'm still waiting for David Rice to pop up. In the meantime, I'm going to start with something else. I'm going to move from how to have personal peace and how Federico Mayor, the Spanish scientist, scholar, politician, diplomat, and poet, and the Director General of UNESCO from 1987 to 1999. And he said, it's a good moment to repeat that a war is never won. Never mind that history books tell us the opposite. The psychological and the material costs of war are so high that any triumph is really not a victory. Joni, welcome. So nice to see you. Only peace. Yes, you're so welcome. Only peace can be won, and winning peace means not avoiding armed conflict, but finding ways for individuals to eradicate the reasons for war, to eradicate war. We must construct a new set of values, said Federico Mayor, a new set of values and attitudes to replace the culture of war, which for centuries has been influencing the course of civilization. Think about those words, that for centuries has been entering the course of civilization. Winning peace, and I will finish with this little bit, and then hopefully David Rice joins us. Winning peace means the triumph of our pledge to establish on a democratic basis a new social framework of tolerance and generosity from which no one can feel excluded. So you think about that. Winning peace means the triumph of our pledge to establish on a democratic basis a new social framework of tolerance and generosity for which no one will feel excluded. This is so important because in our hearts, we know we want peace, and yet it's not the easiest thing to accomplish when wars are going on. It's an unsettling time. And that's why I wanted to invite, and that's why we have Ernest Thiessen here today, because Ernest Thiessen has worked for 3 decades to bring to the world a possibility for e-negotiations. When you think about e-negotiations, you're thinking about maybe using the internet, using Zoom, using a whiteboard. And Ernie is going to talk about how we can transform war into peace. Just think about that a minute. And I say that really to allow you to know that peace begins in your subconscious, in your mind. Because when you see peace, my late husband and I would travel the world and we would hear people saying, oh, Dr. Mueller, you're at the UN. How can I work for peace? And he would say, what are you thinking right now? He said, do you know that thoughts materialize into actions? And so I always say to the people when I make my talks, what are you thinking right now? Imagine the world that is working for all and that you're part of the peace puzzle. And so I'm going to begin to introduce Dr. Thiessen because I want to give him as much time as possible to show us a slideshow, to show us about Smart Settle, to show us ways that we can incorporate and support him. I'm going to start the ending first. He needs the money to get the wars ended. He has all of these mediators ready to go. And if you know anybody that has just $100,000, a small little amount, we can use that to start the process. End a commercial. Dr. Thiessen is a prominent figure in decision research and innovation, contributing several decades to redefine formal decision-making systems through Smart Settle collaborative system. Thiessen is the president of Smart Settle. He is Smart Settle's resolutions and ICANN Systems Inc. and directs the International E-Negotiation exhibit. He contributes to the International Journal of Online Dispute Resolution, as well as serving on the election editorial board. Thiessen's journey with decision research can be traced back to the 1980s in Nepal, where he volunteered work for the Mennonite Central Committee that led to groundbreaking negotiations, earning him accolades like the UNESCO IHA Blue Planet Prize. Specializing in water resource systems planning and analysis, Thiessen earned a PhD from Cornell University in 1993. Driven by a vision of a bridge to the gap between engineers and decision making. And you look at Thiessen's maximizing the minimum gain solution earned him an endorsement from the Harvard professor emeritus Howard Raffia as superior to the work of Nobel laureate John Nash. Over the next 3 decades, Thiessen refined the original solution into 9 algorithms, powering the world's most advanced collaborative system, Smart Settle. Addresses simpler cases with Smart Settle Infinity, designed to work with complex multi-party conflicts, the world's only secure multi-party collaborative system, proven in thousands of real-life and simulation scenarios. I'm going to hold right there for a minute, because I see we have a guest who has arrived. Now, I started to introduce Ernest Thiessen, and I will finish after David Rice, our newest representative for the regional reps. David Rice, would you give us an overview of your beautiful chapter in Orange County? And why you couldn't be here is because you were having lunch with your chapter, am I right? And David, please unmute yourself.
Okay, there you go. Sorry, Barbara.
No problem.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, we just wrapped up our annual meeting, and we're in the middle of a lunch. But anyway, I did want to join and apologize for being a little late. I do just want to give a brief update on the chapter activities from this last year. You just want me to take a few minutes, couple minutes?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. We're focused as a chapter on basically 4 key programs. The first one is our UNA Women program, and we held a number of events around CEDAW. And we do cultural dinners. We had an Afghan cultural dinner event with about 200 folks attending in the year, and then a number of others. We've got an International Women's Day event coming up here in March with a collaboration of a number of women's organizations throughout Orange County. So that's a big focus for us. Next is the youth engagement program. And, we've been wanting to really get this off the ground for a while now. And it seems to have finally taken wing. And we've got some really strong young folks who are involved mainly with model UNs, or if they're not, they're trying to establish, UN clubs on campuses at their high schools, as well as at colleges. We've had a campus chapter startup at SoCal University, which is the International Studies University here in Aliso Viejo.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. We've had a good campus there at Fullerton, getting one reinvigorated now at Chapman University and then UCI as well. So that's a big program, and trying to connect various of all the model UN programs together so that they can better understand the SDGs as well.
The sustainable development goals are really important, and we're not going to ignore them. 2030 is when we hope to have them implemented, right, David? And you had worked on the local SDGs.
So the local SDGs is our other main, kind of our signature focus program for the last 2 years. And we're really working hard to, implement the UN's model of the SDGs locally into our community, starting in Orange County at the 34 cities and at the county level, but also really looking to collaborate with San Diego, with LA, and, getting all Southern Cal on board over time as we can do this. And our goal ultimately would be to have California be the first state to sign on to adopting the SDG model as a way to track and measure and manage really addressing all of our issues. So that's a very exciting program. There's a lot to it. I could, go into probably a lot of detail. And if anybody's interested in what's happening there and in collaborating, please do just get a hold of me. And, I'd be happy to take you through it. But yeah, kind of a lot going on, in the chapter, and we're excited.
This is exciting for us too. I would like you to put your coordinates in the chat. And the reason I say that is we've had several people, including Andrew up in the left corner, who is an incredible gift to our UNA work. And I want him to speak for a moment. I want to introduce the two of you. Andrew, please.
Well, thank you so much, David. I'm so excited to hear what you're saying. I've committed most of, in the first place, as a background, as you may know, the Sustainable Development Goals are only the second iteration of the Millennium Development Goals that started in 2000. Kofi Annan made that announcement at the 1999 Davos World Economic Forum. I was just completing my business plan then and incorporated that into my own corporate social responsibility. So I've been very much invested in that since that time. But as I mentioned earlier to Barbara, I'm president of 5 Points Youth Foundation. So we spent from 2015 to 2020 focused on caring for climate, a UN Global Compact initiative. But David, we're focused now on the Sustainable Development Goals and bringing in, I have a network of 100 Goodwill ambassadors around the world. One of them worked for the UN Habitat for over 25 years. She retired, and now we co-founded an organization to help bring the United Nations Habitat 3. It's called the New Urban Agenda. There's an illustrated handbook that is free online course. So we're encouraging civic engagement by having all of our networks, including hopefully you guys, to make this a very much a curriculum for all of our members. So they'll be very much involved with how we can address these sustainable development goals on a local basis. As you know, most of the United States pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord, et cetera. But here in Los Angeles, our city and county are both have sustainable development plans, but few people are aware of what that means. So by bringing it to the youth in such a way, working with youthforglobalgoals.org, we hope to bring this collaboration with UNA to a place here in Southern California that we can have an impact on the rest of the world. Thank you.
Andrew, did you put in that Youth for Global Glows in the chat? So that
I will. I'll do that right now.
In the chat. Sandy Hinden has just joined us. Sandy Hinden is one of the people on our planet who never misses an opportunity to let Ernest Thiessen's work get out there. And Sandy Hinden is the reason that I have worked for Mutually Assured Survival. He is amazing the way he has worked with my late husband, Dr. Robert Mueller. He and Robert Mueller worked at the United Nations. Sandy started peace gardens and so much more. Sandy, say hello to our group, and then we're going to introduce Ernie.
Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here. Thanks, Barbara, for inviting me.
You're so welcome. And he's a grandfather. And you know, grandfathers care about their grandchildren, as Ernie does, as I care about my grandchildren. And this is why I want you to listen very carefully today to Ernest Thiessen. Because
Barbara,
yes.
Can we give a report for San Fernando Valley as well if we have time?
What would you like to do?
Give the chapter report for San Fernando Valley if we have
I
time.
haven't done your report.
No, you haven't.
Oh, okay. Ernest, may I have permission to let David Techman, give us his report? May I apologize to you? Please, go ahead, David.
Thank you. The San Fernando Valley chapter is proud to have been recognized this past year as the National Chapter of Excellence and Chapter of the Year. We attended the National Summit, and we've supported Harm for Harmony Peace Concert by helping to procure 2 artist performers, thanks to the work of our Vice President, Dr. Soraya Falla. We also promoted events for women's rights, with women's rights panelists on human rights in Iran, as well as the Voice of America journalist, Sermon Kajo, sharing his experiences in the aftermath of the earthquakes in Turkey and in Syria. But I really want to focus on our most recent program with Home for Refugees. This is an organization that has settled Ukrainians in California. We heard from their director and an Ukrainian family that has received asylum assistance from USCIS, that stands for U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service. As an immigration officer myself with USCIS, I have worked with United for Ukraine for several cases. So I'm so proud to know that there are organizations like Home for Refugees that is playing a key part with host families and providing needed resources for these families. I also want to thank Barbara Mueller for your attendance and bring Rotary Club for Peace in on that program with us, as well as the American Red Cross, who also attended our program. I'd also like to add that as a Red Cross Youth Advisor, I'm proud of the Red Cross Youth in the Los Angeles region for their refugee wish list drive, where they hold collection drives in all of our chapters across Southern California to provide the needed resources for our Ukrainian families in the United States.
Wow, no wonder you were the best for last. That's all I can say. Thank you, David. And now I'm going to go to speaker view because I really want you all to know how important Dr. Ernest Thiessen is. He's a prominent figure in decision research, innovation, contributing several decades to redefining formal decision-making through Smart Settle and collaborative systems. Thiessen is the president of Smart Settle Resolutions and ICANN Systems. And with that, I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Ernest Thiessen. Dr. Thiessen, the floor is yours, and I know you have a wonderful program for us, including a PowerPoint that will show what you are going to give us. Okay, ready? Dr. Thiessen? You're muted, Dr. Thiessen.
Fix that.
There
Okay.
you are. And this is Dr. Thiessen. We've been waiting for you. Our world needs you now more than ever. Dr. Ernest Thiessen, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you very much, Barbara. It's my honor to be here, and thank you for inviting me. I do have a short PowerPoint that I've prepared here. I'm going to share my screen briefly and go to that. But let me just say that, you know, I thrive on questions, so I don't mind actually if, you know, I think it takes about 20 minutes if I would just go straight through, but you can interrupt me along the way with any questions if you want to. If you put them in the chat, I probably won't be looking, but somebody tell me that there is a question there if you do that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here, and in one moment.
We could give you a moment. We've been waiting for you for centuries.
Right.
There you go, Ernest.
There we go. And if I'm sharing the right screen, it should say there on the full screen, transforming wars into peace. Well, wouldn't that be something if we could do that?
Yes.
Anyways, I've got us working on something that maybe we can give it a try. So, you know, everybody wants that. Even the parties that are fighting, they don't want to fight, but they don't know any better way to settle their differences than fighting. And you know, there is another way. And collaboration is the key. If they could figure out how to collaborate, but it's just easier said than done, right? But my goal today is to tell you about the Smart Settle Infinity collaboration system. So, you know, there's no substitute for actually seeing a video of this. And you know, if you're scratching your head by the time we get to the end of this presentation, you know, just make sure that you find a video and watch and see it actually in action. But I'm going to do my best without that video. We don't have time for a simulation. And so as I was saying, collaboration is key to a peaceful, sustainable planet. Our motto is waging peace, and our vision is conflict resolution in a more peaceful, collaborative, and intelligent way. The ultimate prize would be a world without war, focusing on taking better care of our planet. So my goal today is to give you some insight into that more intelligent way. A short version of that vision is better peace sooner. We live in a world full of wars, and we counted them earlier on in this presentation, more than 110. And there's right now in the news, there are two huge wars that are dominating: Ukraine versus Russia, and also in the Middle East. And there are many more. In the following slides, I'm going to use Ukraine versus Russia for my illustration, but the process I'm describing that can be applied to any conflict. So let's think about that so-called special military operation. If you ask someone how that war in Ukraine will end, they might predict that Ukraine will win on the right side of this graph, and others will say, no, Russia is so big. Eventually, you know, we're going to end up on the left side. And along the way, both sides are experiencing horrible violence. I don't have to expound on that. But I'm sure all of you agree that this is really, you know, we can't talk about any winning here. It's about losing no matter how you look at it, with all of that death and destruction. Other ways to peace are following this orange arrow to some kind of a one-dimensional distributive stalemate. And it looks to me that's what might happen after a ceasefire. It's not at all clear how this war will or can end, but it looks to me right now like a very dangerous Nash equilibrium. Describing the Nash equilibrium won John Nash a Nobel Prize in 1994 for work that he did in the 50s. But he didn't stop there. Nash also had a second algorithm for escaping the Nash equilibrium, and He called that algorithm maximize utility product. In order for this algorithm to work, we have to reorient these scales so that we transform a one-dimensional win-lose problem into 2 dimensions or more, where it's possible for both or all sides to win. Assuming only 2 parties, we're now looking at a 2-dimensional satisfaction space where Ukraine wants to be at the right and Russia wants to be at the top. And it's no longer true that one party has to lose when another one wins. Smart Settle uses a similar algorithm called maximize the minimum gain. It's been endorsed by experts in the field as superior to Nash's algorithm. Another name for this methodology is integrative negotiation. It applies to negotiations among any number of parties, but this algorithm is not enough. There's a second ingredient. Nash also prescribed collaboration, but he didn't specify how you could get parties to collaborate. Like, it's really easier said than done. In the next few slides, I'm going to describe the methodology used by the Smart Settle Infinity collaboration system. So if you've been to our project website recently, you will recognize this diagram. We imagine a multi-party negotiation involving more parties than just Russia and Ukraine. 5 are shown here, being assisted in their communication by the Smart Settle Infinity neutral site. Wise mediators, assisted by AI today, help to create a single negotiating framework that comes out as a peace treaty at the end of the process. And next, I'm going to describe the peace process depicted on this diagram. But this won't be enough. As I said, you've really got to see the videos. And if you can't find them, just email me and I'll point you to them. So, as an illustration of how the Smart Settle process works, consider Putin's proposed peace plan of 2014. In between, there were quite a few more proposals by various parties, and in November 2022, Zelensky proposed a very different plan. So a mediator using Smart Settle's method would take the proposals from both of these parties. Oh, wait, here's something from China. Looks like a 12-point plan. Well, as I was saying, the mediator would take all of these plans, and there are many more, and combine them into a single negotiating framework. And today, with generative AI, it's actually that task is quite a bit easier than it was in the past. But the idea is to produce a single negotiating framework that basically documents everything the parties agree to and leaves blanks for the things they don't agree to. And we call this a single negotiating framework, SNF for short. The blanks will be the issues that are still to be negotiated, and a mediator helping with this process can now encourage the parties to direct their constructive criticism at the mediator and this document rather than at each other. Building a single negotiating framework is the beginning of the modeling phase. This is the time to build and or strengthen relationships. The parties can meet physically face-to-face or virtually from opposite sides of the world. The objective of this phase is for each stakeholder to bring all the issues to the table. No bargaining or formal exchange or proposals takes place during this phase, but the discussion will identify the range of possible outcomes on each issue. And the parties will then model the SNF within Infinity, which includes a preference representation for each of them. And each party does that separately. Any number of parties can be accommodated this way until they're all satisfied with a single negotiating framework, which now represents a very well-defined problem. And as John Dewey said, a well-defined problem is already half solved. The other half of the problem is solved in the solution phase. This is where the parties build packages, exchange proposals, and request suggestions from the system with the goal of reaching an agreement. And during the solution phase, the parties gather around a virtual table in Smart Settle's e-negotiation room. Communication is enhanced with sophisticated algorithms, and the most important attributes are neutral, trustworthy, safe, secure, smart, and this can continue anywhere, anytime. Skilled facilitators are required in order to reach the best attainable outcome that is satisfactory to all parties. What each party sees is their own view of the virtual negotiating table on which packages appear. These may be proposals or suggestions from Smart Settle. All of these are candidates for the final solution. Parties can compare packages by means of secret ratings assigned to each package. In a process called multivariate visual blind bidding, a final solution emerges. This graph assumes a comprehensive single negotiating framework has already been created, and each party's preferences are well represented at the Smart Settle Infinity neutral site. The stage is set for the integrative bargaining phase of a Smart Settle negotiation. The animation here will show how the bargaining phase works for two parties. Each party has their own view of the status quo. This is equivalent to whatever would happen if there was no negotiation. This point is also that dangerous Nash equilibrium that I referred to earlier. The parties need some way to escape that dangerous Nash equilibrium. The status quo, together with the efficiency frontier, define a zone of possible agreement. But each party also has a minimum level of satisfaction that they would be willing to accept. And these levels define a zone of likely agreement. The Smart Settle process proceeds as follows. The parties start with optimistic proposals. So those two proposals you see here are outside of those zones of possible and likely agreement, but they can put more proposals on the table. They can have Smart Settle for some suggestions, and some of those will fall in that zone of likely agreement. And if both or all parties accept any of those packages, one of them then will become a baseline agreement. Smart Settle then applies that signature algorithm, maximize the minimum gain, brings them out to the efficiency frontier, fairly distributes any value left on the table to present a fair and efficient solution. So that's two parties. The same process applies to any number of parties. If it was for three parties, it would look something like this. And we're adding the West as a third party. And this has the potential to be tremendously complicated, but with Smart Settle, each party's view is really no different when there are many parties as if there are just two parties. They are each focusing on their own point of view and what will bring them satisfaction. So the final outcome is a consensus in which the blanks in the single negotiating framework are filled in to become the final agreement to be implemented. And like I said earlier, there's some good videos on our website. Just email me if you can't find them, and I will point you to the best one, the Ukraine point of view that we made recently. It's only 14 minutes. It's one of the best ones. And so we are trying to scale up the work that we were doing. We've got some potential projects that we have our eye on. One is in the Horn of Africa to deal with some cross-border conflicts among a number of countries there. And we'd love to work on a ceasefire in Ukraine. The parties are ready, but they don't know how to get there. And of course, the Middle East is the big one. So that's a quick presentation, a quick overview of Smart Settle, and I just thank you for watching, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go back to gallery view because I want people to be able to hear the questions and have you answer the questions. So I'm back in gallery view. First of all, I want to say that something brought new to me that was transforming war into peace. I thought you summarized exactly what you're about to do, to transform war into peace. But it takes negotiations and it takes collaboration. That's where the problems have, in all of the evaluations that I have watched, the negotiations and the evaluations after, they can't agree. And that emotion keeps them on this warring side. So how does Smart Settle step in and allow people not to have the emotional pull of you killed my mother, darn it, damn it, and all the rest? Go.
Yeah. Well, you're
I know I realize that this is an emotional time, Ernie, but by the same token,
You
how
know,
do we do this?
At the beginning of the process, we engage parties in simulations. We don't jump into the real thing right away. We engage parties in simulations. It could be a simulation of their own conflict or some other conflict, but once they realize how it's possible to get to a better place, they need to, their way of dealing with this conflict has to be transformed from that single dimensional view to a multidimensional view where they can basically see how they can look at what they're both wanting and look for differences in their preferences and take advantage of that in order to get to a solution that will maximize their mutual satisfaction.
That's what I have. I have had the honor of watching your slideshows, and your presentation today really was more direct, and it was beautiful because you showed how they can negotiate into agreement. And Nancy, I see you have a question.
It's an idea rather than a question. It seems like they need to do something like Alternatives to Violence project, which is called AVP, where people learn to listen to each other. And so just the fact of looking at each other and directly listening to each other is a way for people to realize that the other is not the other, but another person with the same problems and ideas, just different points of view. So it seems like something like that needs to be added to the whole process. And actually, it's been working in Africa and all over the world where people who have had conflicts like Boko Haram and the girls that were kidnapped, and then the villages with the parents and the girls can sit and communicate with each other. It's not easy. People who have committed genocide have to confront their victims, and the victims have to confront the people who perpetrated the genocide. But it's a way for people to learn to listen to each other. So this has a lot of good ideas. But I think at some point people need to see each other and listen to each other.
Ernie?
So you're absolutely right there, Nancy. They got to start talking with each other rather than fighting and try to understand each other. And at the beginning of the process, we have that building of the single negotiating framework, and that provides the opportunity for a lot of communication. Let's see if we can identify all of the things that we agree to. And the problem is when people are trying to solve their problem, they get to something they don't agree to, and they just start arguing and fighting. Well, we don't want them to do that. When you get to something that you don't agree to, set it aside. It's an issue that will be modeled later. And building that single negotiating framework is about all the common ground that's already there. And you can build relationships during that exercise, all the things that Nancy was talking about.
Thank you so much. Sylvia? Sylvia, you're muted, dear.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. I think one of the problems that I think about all the time is that when I was
A little bit
growing up,
louder, Sylvia. Get closer to your screen so we can hear you.
when I was growing up, and I look at the kids who are growing up today, did anybody ever define peace for us? Did everybody ever talk with us about conflict resolution and how you would do this? Or we just growing up like that without any skills? And if we don't do that with our kids today, this will never go away. Because we need to teach that even to the little ones. That's what we want.
That's right. Dealing with adults that grew up like just seeing other people fight and looking at other people fighting to solve their problems. It's really, really difficult. But, you know, if you teach children how to solve problems in a, in a collaborative way, without fighting, that they'll grow up into adults that will do the same thing. That's why I think what Sylvia is saying.
It's true. And I remember I was hired by the city close by to Santa Barbara, and the mayor was in the closet because he didn't want to hear what the people were going to say. But when I started writing it down on paper, and everything anybody said, I wrote down in paper. And when there was anything in common, I put that on another sheet. So we found the common ground. Now that's a very archaic way of doing what you're talking about, Ernie. And I am so glad that you are working in a way that allows everything that where the agreements are can be put on a screen so that we can see them. But there is something about this listening that Nancy brought up and Sylvia talking about what we can do to bring peace. And so, Ernie, did you have a comment on Sylvia's approach?
Well, I was just affirming her that, it's really important to teach the children, of course, but if you go to Ukraine right now and to the Middle East, we're dealing with adults that, we don't have 10 years to work with the children. We gotta deal with the adults to solve that problem right now.
Well, I see your smart settle working, and I see people making sure that this is the way we still work today. And Andrew, please.
Yeah, just a thought. Congresswoman Barbara Lee was the only congresswoman that stood up back in 2001 and to address the war at that time. But she's less well known for championing this idea of a Department of Peace for the United States. And so from a practical standpoint, my question would be, is there a pathway for UNA to guide us through the necessary, I guess you would call it geopolitical steps to have someone carry water for the project to the decision makers at hand? That's my question.
Barbara, can you take that question?
His question was, Barbara Lee wanted a Department of Peace. She also wanted, and again, Andrew, help me phrase this better, to allow people to have a path to create peace rather than arguing about the geopolitical situation.
Yeah, in other words, Ernest, I could see where if each of the countries had a department that was focused on a way to, achieve that, we could get this done overnight.
Okay.
But
Let's get that done.
Hi, Barbara.
Yes.
Hi, this is David Tuckman. I'm currently taking a course on peace building at the U.S. Institute for Peace. I just wanted to point out that in our class, we're discussing right now about conflict resolution. Meaning the goal is to reach the agreement and solution to the conflict using traditional mediation and negotiation. But our professor is saying that really you want to look more at conflict transformation, whereas the total transformation of relationships between the parties. That way, you're uncovering the root causes of the conflict. You really want to address the grievances and then build trust between the parties. And that leads to the peace building phase where you transform relationships, institutions, and structures to the end goal of solving a conflict in a nonviolent way, which is a multilateral and a broad approach. I just wanted to kind of point that out, what we're doing right now at USIP and how that kind of ties in.
Thank you. I saw Ernie. Did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, transformation. Yeah, that's a key word. We need that. And transformation takes time. You've got to be patient for it. And I see the Smart Settle process as speeding up the transformation process. There's only so much you can do.
But I love what you said in the beginning, transforming war into peace. Think about those words. If you're having trouble seeing our world at peace, just think about transforming war into peace and how our world will benefit from this. If you have not seen the video, Earthrise, it's when the astronauts in the early, I can't remember the exact date, but it was in the 90s, and they came around the dark side of the moon, or maybe it was even in the 80s. And when the astronauts came around from the dark side of the moon, they saw Earth rise. In other words, if we could imagine our planet as one whole, that these wars are like shooting into our feet that we need to walk with. And so you have to watch Earth Rise if you have a moment. It's on YouTube. It's very beautiful. It's narrated by the astronauts who said, how can we afford to have war when the planet is so fragile? And I looked at the planet and I saw rivers and I saw lakes and I saw green, but I didn't see anybody shooting each other. And so with that, I say, Nancy, you're on.
What I wanted to say was just a little comment that goes along with what you're saying. The problem with saying we don't have time to teach the children because we need to solve the problem in Ukraine and Israel and Palestine is that these countries are looking at others as their enemies, and they're teaching the children that these people are our enemies. And so the children are going to have that idea that others are their enemies, and that's not a good way to grow up. So I think we have to work with the children. And like Sylvia said, if you don't start with the children and teach them, then when they're adults, they won't have those ideas. And Sylvia, AVP is being taught to some children now and youth. And so I think we do need peace education for children.
Absolutely. And Ernie, did you want to add something to that?
Well, no, she's totally right. I mean, we're teaching children the wrong thing with the wars that are happening right now. It's you think of all the Palestinians that are experiencing, all that horrible violence over there. I mean, not only Palestinians, everywhere. That what are you teaching them? They're just their hearts are going to be filled with revenge, and what kind of adults are they going to grow up to be? We need to teach children peaceful ways to resolve conflict.
It's interesting because after one of the wars, which I can't recall right now, they asked the children to draw pictures. And the children couldn't even imagine drawing pictures about a happy family. All they could imagine were drawing pictures where there was fear and danger. because that's what they were experiencing. And so the intervention was, they asked them, what is peace? They didn't say, where are you, but what is peace? And the minute they started drawing the pictures of peace, they drew trees, they drew flowers, but they didn't draw people. And that was so revealing. They didn't think people could bring peace. And Ernie, I know you know better than that people can bring peace, but we're not teaching our children that people don't have to war. It was so revealing to let the children talk about peace. And then one child said, well, if we have peace, we'll have a happy family. And that was the only way they could even imagine having peace. Sylvia?
Yeah, if we don't think about it now, 10 years from now, there'll maybe not even 10 years, there'll be a group like this sitting talking about conflict, except that what they'll be dealing with then is a nuclear war. It's going to take this long to just blow us off the face of it. If we don't look at it now, our children and grandchildren have nothing to look for.
Sylvia, when you were, before you got on, I invited people to go to the Garvis Peace Conference. Is it possible that you could put in the chat the dates and the website in order to go to the Garvis Peace Conference? And what is the date for the Garvis Peace Conference?
It's Saturday the 27th.
Okay, Saturday the 27th at the Nixon.
At the Nixon Library.
And
starting at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And if you need to get tickets, just come on down. Tickets cost $40. We have a number of tickets that are free that we will give to people who really want to come and can't afford it. So Nixon Library, 8 o'clock.
Sometimes I
Serve
think as
breakfast.
Ernest, thank you, Sylvia. Sometimes I think as Ernest does, well, these meetings, these conferences that we're holding now, are they really working? The answer is you find your tribe who agree with you so that you can reinforce each other. Why am I on with Helen Peacock, the originator of Ending War 101? Why am I working with Quanta and all of the people who believe that war can be ended? Because we support each other. We need to support each other and understand that ending war is possible. Once you understand the ramifications, and that's why Helen Peacock has a QR code there, and I have the QR code. Take out your smartphone, take a picture of it, and join us on March 5th in order to take this course. Quanta is a member of the team Ending War 101. Quanta, you have your hand up.
Thank you very much, Barbara. I do agree with Nancy Martin about because I am from Middle East and I understand what you're saying. However, in order for America to have an effective and impactful example, to be an example, we also have to work in our society. We have our children going and killing each other in schools. So therefore, I do think that it has to be simultaneous, both teaching out of the country and as well as within the country, so that people can say, yes, you are a peaceful country. We should really, you are our model. At this time, unfortunately, that is not so, my dear Miss Martin.
Thank you, Quanta. Quanta is an amazing networker. I got on this call for our group today at 12 o'clock when we didn't start until 12:30. The first person to sign on was named Gary Rausch, R-A-U-S-H-E, from Ukraine. He got on to find out what Smart Settle is about because of Quanta inviting him. I'm going to tell you the secret to success. I took the course on public relations from the founder of PR. He said, Edward Bernays, he was 94 when I was starting my company in 1985. I wanted to be a socially responsible PR lady. And he said, Barbara, if you want to influence somebody, it starts with awareness. That's what these groups do to Form after they are aware, awareness, information, persuasion to do something. Now, here is the formula that will drive you nuts, because he says to go from awareness to persuasion, the old-fashioned way, radio, television, emails, text messages, it takes 7 knocks to get from awareness to persuasion to do something. So if we want Ernie to be successful, we're going to have to do the magic. The magic bullet is the best friend tells you. Why did Gary join us? Because Quanta said, Gary, you have to meet Barbara and learn about Ending War 101 and hear Ernest Thiessen. Because when a best friend tells you, Walter Cronkite was famous for that. He would end up his newscast with, now it's time for you to do this, and we would do it. He was respected. And so you, as an ambassador for peace, use your voice, wear your peace pin, take the course Ending War 101. And then from awareness, information, persuasion, now let's get some people now. You don't think I'm going to ignore Gary. I'm going to reassure him. Awareness, information, persuasion, reassurance. I'm going to reassure Gary that he can listen to Ernest Thiessen on my video. I'm going to put it on peacepodcast.org. And the last thing is evaluation. Check it out. Did that person have a question that wasn't answered? You give them a chance to tell you. You evaluate the experience so that you learn. You become a peacemaker. You become the Ernest Thiessens. We can't be everywhere, but we can keep our voice strong. Who said that? Maya Angelou said, it's our human voice that transforms us from all of those 7 knocks from awareness, persuasion, information, and persuasion to do something. Why am I reading the book on Margaret Mead right now? Because my best friend said, you've got to read this book on Margaret Mead. So when your best friend tells you to do something, you do it. Like Sylvia told me, you got to be there at the Nixon Center and be there for the Garvis conference. Okay, Sylvia, if you say so. I didn't have to go on an email and get a whole bunch of notes. So with that, Andrew, I see you're smiling. You must understand this process.
Well, yeah, but several thoughts came to mind. One, of course, is that we just celebrated the birthday of Martin Luther King. He was also influenced, as was Mahatma Gandhi, by a USA resident, Henry David Thoreau. But it seems that we are in a prime position ourselves to take a lesson out of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, number 29, which is taking responsibility. Since those of us are here, we're here, right? So Ernest, it seems as though we are the ones that have to take the lead to do more than just to have a conversation about this. Barbara, I'm so glad that you're going to make this available on your podcast. But Ernest, you had a very important, I think, very beginning, because you included AI as one of the components of what you're doing. All of us here are speaking English, but it's only when we take, I think, the next step to involve AI in providing a translation of what we're talking about into those languages of all the participants of a particular conflict, let's say, because you use an example of Ukraine, Russia, China, others have peace plans, even the Mideast have peace plans. But initially, all those are in different origin languages. But to the extent that we can begin, I think, to maybe engage a wider audience than just ourselves, and also a wider audience than just those that speak English, is a way for us to begin to address this issue from a holistic standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew has been on since Gary was on. Andrew was the second person to join us today. He walks his talk. He got on early so we could meet him and we could talk about ending wars and be aware of the programs that he is working on so we can support each other. The secret to the United Nations Association and Rotary Clubs is not just to go to meetings. We can find a million meetings to go to, but to take it home with us. As Andrew said, take it home. Practice, as Sylvia said, as Nancy Martin said, practice with your children. What do I do? Why am I a peacemaker? Well, I'll tell you a real fast story. My grandfather immigrated from Hungary to avoid World War I. When the coffin maker was piling up the coffins, Grandpa said, "What are you doing that for? We're going to need them. The war is coming." He was 17 years old. They didn't have coffins like we have today. He was out there chopping down the trees and making coffins, wooden coffins, and piling them up. And my grandfather said, the war's coming? I don't believe in war. And he left on the boat out of Hungary, Romania. On that boat, he met my grandmother. My grandmother was also avoiding war and the pain of being a child in Hungary. She came from royalty, but I don't know all the other horrors that she experienced. All I know is that she was avoiding pain. War is painful. Long story short, my grandfather and grandmother met on the boat and married. And when I turned 3 years old, what do you think Grandpa said to me? Barbara, you're going to be a peacemaker. And I said, Grandpa, and I get goose pimples telling you the story. I said, Grandpa, so what am I going to do about peace? You're going to learn. And I get goose pimples telling you this story because he said, you will meet somebody who will take you into the world of peace. And I met Robert Mueller, the friend of Sandy Hinden. And Robert Mueller and I spent the time working for peace. And then I meet Helen Peacock, Ending War 101. And I meet Sandy Hinden. And I meet the peacemakers, that returning Peace Corps volunteers like Nancy Martin. And now I'm meeting Ernest Thiessen. And so with that, I'm going to turn the audience and all of us over to Ernest Thiessen for a last word and for a dream. Ernest Thiessen's program will be on the website of UNA SoCal, but it also will be on peacepodcast.org because then I can put it on YouTube. This program that Ernest did today will be available to you, and I will email each of you after. If you put your email into the chat, I will be sure that I save the email and I will send you the chat because there's so much information. So be sure you put your email in the chat and I will save the chat and I will keep you posted. And Ernie, it's your turn to end us today and to thank you for being so dedicated. Take 3 decades.
Yeah, I wonder if I could just recognize John L. German, who has joined us today. I'm happy to see John. You know, John, I've been working with John. He's a fellow Rotarian, and he has had firsthand experience with Smart Settle, the actual program. And I'm just wondering whether John would like to have a chance to comment on what's been presented and talked about today.
John German is like a saint, an unspoken saint. Do you realize that John German introduced the international, he introduced Steve Kilalea to Rotary before Rotary knew about positive peace. Now, I'm a little bit beyond positive peace. I think we have to have peace around the planet. And that's why I'm going to Singapore. If anybody is on here who's going to Singapore, let me meet you in the Peace Park. All right. Because John German, as Ernest has said, is a quanta of this generation. Quanta introduces people to the right people. And that's what John German did. And now we have Ernie and John and Sandy and all of us who are working for Ernest. Ernest, your turn.
Yeah, well, if John has a comment there, I'm not sure you can unmute. If do you have audio, John?
I hope so. So yes, so Barbara is our great ally in all this, and she's the one who brings us all together. And here we are. And you're right. This depends on us. And Ernest Thiessen is one of 2 people I am working with very closely, because I see in what they are doing, the hope for how we get to the kind of collaboration that we absolutely need. The other person is David Gershon, who Barbara has already had on another session, with a very bottoms-up approach. And this one is one that can be applied at every level. You've heard about applying it, to member states, to countries, to warring parties, but it can be applied at every level. It's been used in divorce and child custody cases. So anyway, these 2 people are the people I am investing in and relying on to get us to where we need to go. Anything you can do to help them along, please do it. and put some things in the chat very specifically about things that I think people can do to help out. So thank you so much, and keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on. I am saving the chat, and I hope you have put your emails in so I can make sure that I keep you in my life. The other thing is I appreciate each of you. We appreciate. It's a we, we are transforming war into peace by our actions, by our thoughts, and it really does begin with our thoughts. And Ernie, if you have a last word, I'd like to turn the audience over to you.
So yeah, I'm just happy to have this opportunity to speak with you, and I know it's a lot to take in a short time, but and I really encourage you to watch some of our videos. The best one is the Ukraine point of view in the Russia-Ukraine simulation. So you can find that on our website. And if you have trouble finding it, just email me and I'll point you to it.
And your email, Ernie, why don't you just say it out loud?
So the easy one is just et@smartsettle.com.
That's Ernest Thiessen standing by et@smartsettle.com. And please say thank you to Ernie. Tell him to put you on his mailing list or email so that he can bring you up to date. And if you have this extra cash that you've been thinking, I need to end these wars, and I have 5 friends that want to each contribute 20,000, that will get us into ending the war in the simulation with Ukraine and Russia. And with that, I ask you each to know that your thoughts are very important. And keep those thoughts on the world that transforms war into peace in our generation. My grandfather told me I was going to be a peacemaker, and I'd be mighty thrilled to end up my life and go to Grandpa and say, Grandpa, I did it. We don't have any more wars. That's my dream, Grandpa. And Grandpa will be greeting me. Grandma will be saying, now, don't talk so loud to her. Let her talk, because she always told him what to do. But that doesn't matter, because he told me that I was going to be a peacemaker. And I have been a peacemaker since 3 years of age. And if anybody knows how old I am, that's more than 70 years now, you guys. And with that, I thank you, and I bless you. Joni, did you want to say something? Joni is my friend from Pathways to Peace, and an incredible woman. Joni? You're a little bit muted. Okay, Joni, you're muted. She's talking away and she's muted, darn it. It's in the corner, Joni. Okay, well, we don't get to hear from Joni as much as I
got it. I got it.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you all for a wonderful program and let you know that started the planning for the International Day of Peace on September 21st. We're going to have a huge event in San Francisco. You're all invited. And because it's the 40th anniversary of the first International Day of Peace celebration in San Francisco. So that's pathwaystopeace.org. Stay tuned. Thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome. Helen Peacock, I cannot end this program without giving you a moment to say something. Helen Peacock has a vision, and this vision has taken on the people who need to have. Go ahead, Helen, please.
Okay. Actually, I feel like there have been sort of several parallel conversations today, and we're talking about the underlying causes of war. We're talking about the solutions to this in terms of education with our children. And in the meantime, Ernie is talking about what to do right now with wars that are happening right now, and how we might be able to persuade the warring parties to sit down and negotiate. And one of the questions was about, I think you asked this, Barbara, about, how do we get the emotion? It's so emotional. You killed my mother. You killed my mother. Like, I hate you. I hate you. And how do we bypass that? And I think part of the genius of what Ernie is proposing is that we're not leading with the emotion. We're leading with possible solutions that we might be able to get behind. And this sort of neutral artificial intelligence process is putting it together into the maximum gain for every party. So I'm personally very much into grassroots movements and the kind of education that we're talking about in terms of a long-term solution, and also into the immediate need for us to look at our own thinking and the thinking in our own cultures and understand how it has allowed war to go on for the 75 years since the United Nations pledged to save us from the scourge of war. Our thinking, the thinking in our cultures, and the ways in which it has been perpetuating this situation. So I'm a firm believer in ending war 101, which is a wake-up call, and I'm also a believer in what Ernie is proposing as an immediate plan of action for wars that are happening right now. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Helen, and thank you all again. I know you know how much I appreciate you. Each of you have been bringing me more joy than I probably deserve, because you are working on what I think is our solution to our problems on the planet. And Sylvia, would you like to hold that up? Use unmute to speak for peace. Isn't that beautiful? Unmute to speak for peace. Okay, let's all unmute right now and bring each other that lovely symbol of peace. Unmute for peace right now. And God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you, Sylvia.
Hey, Mike, there you are.
Oh my gosh. You don't know all the people who are on, Helen. You would not believe it. But I'm going to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And let's have another conversation. Ernie, this is just the first. We're going to have another one where we actually want to hear more details. And thank you for being our guest speaker today. I'll see you all in Ending War 101. Take the code. All right, my darlings. Thank you.